Clues into what may have caused the disaster are beginning to emerge.
Emails released by the town of Surfside depict squabbling between an engineering firm, the management at Champlain Towers South, and the local government itself. The engineers had been contracted to perform renovations on the doomed building, but the town had not approved parking spaces for the construction equipment. Weeks before the collapse, the head of the condo board wrote that the disputes were causing delays in getting the work done. Jim Ryan, ABC News, Miami Beach.
Elsa is expected to become a Category 1 hurricane as it moves out over open water tonight. It could make landfall tomorrow morning in Tampa. ABC's chief meteorologist Ginger Z is there.
We are still far from Tropical Storm Elsa making landfall. It will be sometime tomorrow morning north of here in Tampa, but we are getting those tropical forced thunderstorms. I'm about to get slammed. I can see it over the bay here. We've seen lightning to our north that's been all over, and the winds are really starting to pick up, and they will. Conditions will keep deteriorating as we go through tonight.
Elsa sustained winds 70 miles an hour. Saying the nation can't get complacent, President Biden's announced a 5-point plan to tackle vaccine hesitancy in communities with low vaccination rates.
It seems to me this should cause everybody to think twice. And it should cause reconsideration, especially young people who may have thought that they didn't have to be vaccinated, didn't have to worry about it, and didn't have to do anything about it up to now.
The plan focuses outreach at pharmacies, physicians, and community groups. Sirens are sounding near the U.S. consulate in Erbil, Iraq. Kurdish terrorism forces say an explosive packed drone crashed near the airport. Air traffic was not affected. Stocks closed mixed today. The Nasdaq at an all-time high. You're listening to ABC News.
What if I told you could...
From the KMET Weather Center for Beaumont, Banning, and the Pass area this afternoon, it's going to be sunny with a high of 98. A mainly clear night tonight with low 72. Sunny skies for Wednesday, high 102. For the Inland Empire this afternoon, we'll have sunny skies with a high of 96. And for Palm Springs, plenty of sunshine. It's going to be hot, the high temperature 112. I'm meteorologist Jim Manali for Smart Talk 1490 KMET.
Take KMET 1490 AM with you everywhere you go by downloading our free smartphone apps found on the KMET website, KMET1490am.com. You can also go to the Google Play Store or the Apple App Store on your phone to download the free app. Now you can listen live or play any of your favorite programmers' podcasts using your smartphone. Go to KMET1490am.com and download your free phone app today.
The following is a paid program. Views and claims expressed are those of the program producer and are not endorsed by this station. Opinions expressed are not necessarily those of radio station KMET, its management, employees, or affiliates. The WK Law Power Hour is here to take you from zero to hero in legal knowledge in 60 minutes. A law firm with 40 years of experience is ready to give you legal guidance you need for free. What could be better than that? Amazing stories about actual cases, interesting and informative guests. Listen, watch, call in. Come ready to learn. And now your host for WK Law Power Hour, Paul Wallin.
Good afternoon, everybody. This is Paul Wallin. I'm the senior partner of our law firm. I've been a lawyer for 40 years, and this is our 8th show. And with every show, it just gets better. We've had lawyers as guests on every single show about very many different areas of law. And today we're going to have 2 great lawyers to talk about 2 different areas of law to help educate you. Because the whole motto of this show is that legal knowledge is power. If you have legal knowledge, you have power when a legal issue comes up in your life. Too many people who we represent are just terrified when they are in the middle of a legal situation because before they call us, they have no idea what they're going to do with this case. Many people, for example, get served with a summons or to appear in court, and they freak out. They don't know if they're coming as a witness, are they being sued for something? All it takes is a simple phone call to our office, 877-466-5245, and we can help you with any legal matter. I cannot tell you, except to say thousands of people have called us for a variety of legal matters, and in 10 minutes, in 5 minutes, in maybe 30 seconds. Their anxiety level goes down when we start to answer questions. You also can become a legal hero when your friends have a legal problem. If you listen to this show and get legal answers, and if they have a problem, you can help them. So like, what kind of legal problems are we talking about that happen to so many people? Traffic tickets. We've handled probably 10,000 traffic tickets for people, helping them. You would be shocked, and maybe you're one of those people that get very, very freaked out when they get a traffic ticket. Is my license going to be suspended? Is my insurance going to be canceled? I think the officer made a mistake. I don't think I'm guilty. What do I do? Can a lawyer help? That's just one example when we answer those kind of questions. I think one of the most stressful of all the kind of cases that we get questions on is divorce and child custody and child support. Think about it. You're married for 9 years. You find out that your spouse is cheating on you. Maybe that spouse is the one that's earning more money. You've got 3 kids. Not only are you devastated because the person's cheating on you, but now you're thinking your life is passing before your eyes, and what are you going to do? Are you going to have money to take care of your kids? And what about that new person in your spouse's life? Are they going to have access to your children? And what about custody? How can I make sure I get primary custody of my kids that I love so much? So much stress, so much concern. And we can answer your questions. That doesn't always lower the stress to 0, but it definitely gives you the knowledge to say, okay, I get it now. I can keep my S together, and I'm going to do everything my lawyer says to make sure that I maximize my chances of getting primary custody of my children or getting a fair amount of child support for my kids. It's those kind of things that we've handled for so many years, and why I urge people to call us, 877-466-5245. Today, we have 2 great lawyers on the show. One is John Gordon. He happens to be a lawyer with our firm, and he's going to answer questions like, I got a DUI. Is there a way I can beat it? Can I win my traffic case? Am I going to go to jail if I'm accused of threatening my boss? The other guest is a tremendously experienced lawyer, Eric Lampel, who's been doing civil litigation and trials and criminal matters for well over 25 years. And in fact, I met Eric when we battled over a very interesting sexual abuse case that we'll be talking about. And Eric will be our second guest. Eric has a tremendous amount of knowledge when it comes to taking on the police and not being afraid of anybody. So if you'd like to call in, it's 951-922-3532, or you can just email me at pjw@wklaw.com. That's pjw@wklaw.com, and we will read your question on the air. But calling is always best because we can hear your voice. If any of my TikTok friends are on, call 951-922-3532, because our sole reason for being here is to help you guys and answer your legal questions. So after the break, you'll be hearing from John Gordon, and you won't want to miss it. See you after the break.
You've been charged with a crime, and now you're facing the loss of your freedom. Where do you turn to get out of jail or stay out of jail? The law offices of Wallin Klarich. Call 877-4-NO-JAIL. With over 20 years' experience and attorneys who work in your local courts, Wallin Klarich can make the difference between jail and freedom. When you need help, make one call. Make it to Wallin Klarich. 877-4-NO-JAIL. The call is free. Will you be?
Hey, are you okay to drive?
Yeah, I'm fine.
17 to Central Jail.
If you've been arrested for DUI and are facing DMV and court hearings, it could mean losing your license, your job, and even your freedom. But Wallin Klarich can help. Just call 877-4-NO-JAIL. With attorneys who know your local courts, Wallin Klarich can make the difference between jail and freedom. Call Wallin Klarich at 877-4-NO-JAIL. The call is free. Will you be?
When your children are taken by social workers, it may be the worst day of your life. When will I see my children again? Where are they going? How can I get them back? Who can I turn to for help to end this nightmare? The answers to all these questions are a phone call or email away. Wallin Klarich have been helping defend parents who are battling the system to regain custody of their children for 40 years. Many of their clients have done nothing wrong to warrant their children being taken from them. Other clients may regret some action that they've taken with their children. However, in every case, the clients desperately need their children back. That's where Wallin Klarich comes in. They know the dependency system. They will do all they can to work to try to get your children back with you. Take the first step and call Wallin Klarich now for a free phone consultation at 877-466-5245. That's 877-466-5245. Or visit wklaw.com to chat with us. They'll be there when you call.
If you are facing criminal charges, your entire future is at stake. You need to act now to protect your job, your family, and your freedom. Call Wallin Klarich at 877-4-NO-JAIL. Wallin Klarich has over 30 years of experience in fighting for our clients' rights. With local offices in Riverside and San Bernardino, we are here to help you now. Call 877-4-NO-JAIL or go to wklaw.com. How much is your freedom worth? Call 877-466-5245. The call is free. Will you be?
When you have a warrant for your arrest, it's a very scary time in your life. When you drive a car, you have to be extra careful that you do not commit any sort of moving violation. You have to be looking over your shoulder, checking for police officers. Will you be stopped and thrown in jail? What a horrible feeling. For over 40 years, we have helped thousands of persons resolve their problem with having a warrant. In some cases, we can actually appear in court for you without you being present to recall the warrant. Depending on the facts of your case, you may never have to do 1 minute in jail. Stop living in fear. Call us now for a free phone consultation at 877-4-NO-JAIL. That is 877-4-NO-JAIL. Or go to wklaw.com. Isn't it time to get your life back? We will be there when you call.
Hi guys, we're back. This is Paul Wallin, the WK Law Power Hour, and it is my tremendous pleasure to have one of our outstanding associates, John Gordon, on the program today. What we love to do is have our lawyers basically come on the show so people who have John assigned to their case, they can go on the website and they can learn more about John and understand why he's such an outstanding criminal defense attorney. So hi, John. How you doing?
How you doing, Paul? It's good to be here.
Great. So why don't you first tell us about where you grew up and where you went to school?
Yeah. So I'm born and raised in San Diego, California. We moved when I was about 6, but we were born into an area known as Southeast San Diego, which isn't the nicest of neighborhoods as described, although the property values wouldn't necessarily show you that it's not a desirable place to stay. After that, we moved over to Chula Vista, California, which is directly next to the border, the last town really before the U.S.-Mexico border in San Diego. I grew up all through San Diego and enjoyed everything about the city and living out there. It's an enjoyable place.
And then where did you go to school? Where did you go to college? And then where did you go to law school?
Yeah, so I was the only one of my friends who left San Diego. I went to San Francisco State University. It was the first college in the United States that offered, that allowed critical race theory to be taught in classes. And that was one of the bigger selling points that I could get a minor in, Black studies. So it was one of the bigger choosing points to go leave my home and go to San Francisco. My time in San Francisco was transformative. I think I was a very sheltered kid, to say the least. My parents focused mostly on school, making sure I had a good GPA and kind of worked me to be that person and be involved in every sport. So I kind of kept my head down and wasn't really paying attention to a lot of the things. But once I got to San Francisco, I noticed, a huge homeless population that needed care. And also, it was around the time that when I graduated from undergrad, it was when Barack Obama was running for his first term as president. And I got to do voter registration in the city of San Francisco, which may appear to be redundant, but at the very least, I got a lot of people registered to vote and for whomever they chose to vote for in that election.
That was probably one of the most exciting days of my life when he was elected president. I must imagine it must have been equally exciting, if not more so for you.
Oh, absolutely. I think I've read every one of Barack's, President Obama's autobiographies, and I just have a very distinct connection with him. My mother is several generations in this country, Irish immigrants that came over in like the 1800s. And my father was first generation to this country. So there's a lot of similarities there that I really cling to, and that I found, that I finally had a voice. It was a very, very moving moment for me.
That's great. Okay, Isabella, how can we help you today?
Hi, I had a quick question. My brother was convicted of a sex crime in California about 22 years ago, and he has to register as a sex offender all that time. He can't find a job, and he's constantly being hassled by people who find out online that he's a registered sex offender. I heard about this new law that might help him out. I was wondering if you could help me understand how that works.
Yeah, I can, and that's extremely important. We are helping hundreds of people who have been required to register as a sex offender, in many cases for as long as your brother and longer. And there is a new law in California that if you are convicted of a certain sex crime, depending on the sex crime and how many years ago it was, we may be able to petition the court and ask that you be removed from the registration. And of course, if that happens, that can change the entire person's life. The first day to petition was July 1st, just 5 days ago. We have many people that already hired us, and it would be very wise to have your loved one call us at 877-466-5245 so we can determine whether or not he qualifies or not. Since it happened such a long period of time ago, there's a good chance he will qualify. It just depends. If he was convicted of one of the most serious sex crimes, it may unfortunately be he has to register for life. But if it's not, then if he's in what's called Tier 1 or Tier 2, and there's 3 tiers, he likely will be able to get off registration. And you already know from what you said, finding a job, the discrimination against people can find you on the website. They don't want to live near you. I mean, it's a horrible, horrible situation. And such a tremendously high percentage of people who are convicted of low-level sex crimes are not a risk to anybody. But it's just an old law that now the legislature has given people a chance. So please tell your loved one to call us. That's 877-466-5245, and we can likely help him. And the consultation on the phone is free, and maybe we can help him. Okay?
Okay, thank you so much.
You're very welcome. Okay, thanks for patience, John. So where did you go to law school?
I went to California Western School of Law. It's one of 2 accredited law schools in San Diego, and honestly, I chose it over a lot of other schools because it's my home.
You obviously love San Diego.
I love Southern California in general. It's a part of me. You can't, even in California, you go a couple miles up north, it's a little different.
Did you know when you started law school whether or not you wanted to be a criminal defense attorney, or did you have a clue?
I think people come into a lot of these things and say like, oh, I had these preconceived notions of exactly what I was going to be, exactly what I was going to do. When I got into law school, I was a paralegal first, and I was just really ecstatic to be in there. And I don't know that I had a plan set when I first went there, but my first class was, and most people that go to law school, is criminal law. And I took that to like a duck to water, I guess is the right, or fish to water is the right saying. And I loved it, every moment of it. And it encouraged me to, not only did I do my first semester was criminal law, I got A's in all my criminal law classes, so I really stuck with it. But after that, I was hooked. I did all my internships at the San Diego Public Defender's Office all the way straight through law school. Every summer, every fall, every summer and spring classes, I was in the PD's office just working. And by the first internship and after that first class, I was hooked, and I knew exactly that this was what I was going to be doing.
Why is the reason for it? Is it because you have a passion for helping people that are oppressed, or why?
I think it's twofold. I think, like I was saying, my time in San Francisco really was transformative in the fact that I started being a lot more concerned with other people and wanting to help, and in any way I can, however minimally it could be. So that desire to help was definitely there, and doing criminal defense work definitely helps. Allows you to help people out. But more to the point, I think while I was working as a paralegal, I was driving to a friend's house, and I mentioned that Chula Vista and Southeast San Diego aren't the nicest neighborhoods. And I was I remember very vividly. I was driving my mom's car, which is a nicer car, and I was driving in a bad neighborhood, worse than the one I'm from, so to speak. And I was just pulled over. I was pulled over by the police officers. I was going north on Main Street. They were coming south on it, and the officer and I made eye contact. The officer came up right around behind me, busted a illegal U-turn, and pulled me over. Asked me some questions and said, if you look guilty, we're going to pull you over, was the statement that was made to me. They said that your rear taillight was out, and then let me go. I remember being so the feeling, it's not describable, powerless. I remember going to my friend's house and pulled him out of his apartment and said, you got to come see if my brake lights are actually out. He's like,
and they weren't. They weren't
working perfectly.
Right.
It was just a very powerless feeling to be pulled over by the police and feeling like you couldn't do anything about it. And I think that was one of the reasons that drove me to become an attorney in the first place. So I understood more about laws in general. But then also what I really believe is what led me to this path where I'm so passionate about criminal defense. There's nothing I'd rather be doing. This is my dream job, and I wake up every day just thankful that I get to do what I do.
The ability to help people when they're facing jail is something that inspires you, obviously.
Oh, absolutely. The only way I could say this is people have this preconceived notion about people that are criminally accused of a crime. And I'll be the first to say that the facts that the police get or that gets sent over the DA's office are not always the facts that come forward. But helping people out is just the desire that gets me up every morning, to be able to help people in the worst situation. Whatever you think of when you think about these charges, just know that this is a person going through the worst day of their life most times. And every time you have a first-time client that's never been through the criminal justice system, being able to guide them through it and help them get the best result possible is something that I live for.
And I find that many people who call are in that extremely high level of distress, and they might have spoke to a couple other lawyers that were jerks or asses or something else. And just by being a kind human being, sometimes people actually break down and cry just because you're kind and you're willing to listen to them. The first person to listen to what will happen if, God forbid, they go to jail or that they're innocent. You just have to listen, and then people feel heard, and then you can start to help them, right?
Oh, absolutely. I think a lot of times clients just need to be heard. I feel like they're wanting to get out their side of the story. And I'm not this person that you're saying that you see on this, 8x11 piece of paper, because that's all the court sees is this words on an 8x11 piece of paper. And clients don't want to be reduced to that, and understandably so. They want to have somebody go in there and vigorously advocate for them on their behalf. And I take that as an honor and as a duty for all of my clients to go out there and fight for them, to get them the best that they can get and to be there for them so that they are heard.
Do you think that, therefore, if someone's accused of a crime and they're facing the possibility of jail time, do you think it's important they get a private lawyer to represent them?
Oh, absolutely. And I'm glad you said private attorney, because that's, getting an attorney in general is the best idea you can ever have if you're criminally accused. But getting a private attorney, we just provide so much more service than, I guess the alternative would be the public defender's office. the public defender's office doesn't get appointed until your arraignment day. And Paul, you know this better than anybody else, 40 years of experience here. So much of your case is before that. You know, the police are just, or the sheriff's department is just doing their investigation. And, you know, if you don't have a private attorney, you're just sitting there on your hands, not talking to the police, not talking to the DA's office who's filing the charges, just waiting for your arraignment date. And if you go for the public defender's office, they don't get involved in that time span, but we do. And I'll be the first one to admit this, that because of our representation ahead of time before the arraignment date, we're able to get charges not filed at all. And that's just a service or a function that the public defender's office doesn't offer.
Yes, because they can't get the case until later on. Also, the public defender's office, just because the nature of so many people are indigent, are just very, very, very busy with cases.
I think that's like, and it goes to what you're saying. You know, our clients want to be heard. They want to talk to somebody. They don't want to talk to the public defender's paralegal. And, you know, when you have 225, 250 cases like the public defender's office does for misdemeanors or felonies, and you're having that many cases, there's no way to talk to everybody. You won't be communicating with an attorney. And if it is, it'll be in passing. I have clients all the time that not only do I talk to them, but once they get proper clearance, I'm able to talk to their mom. And I make time to meet up with everybody. The parents that are concerned, their siblings, and we talk about the case and what's going on with it. And that's just something that's not available through the public defender's office.
I know, and we find that many cases, they'll call us after they've had a public defender, and we hear some horror stories, not because the public defenders are not good lawyers and don't care, they do care. It's just they're sometimes overwhelmed, and the families of the accused, if they're in custody, the accused, they just want to talk to the lawyer, and the lawyer has to prioritize and often can't even have a chance to get back to the family. And so the family's not in the loop, and they're obviously terrified. So it is a good idea to always have a private lawyer, especially our firm, because for most people, we can even take payments from people. And that is a huge good thing, because a lot of law firms don't. Can you just give us an example? If you're facing jail time if you're accused of domestic violence?
Oh, absolutely. Yes.
Is it one of the more serious misdemeanor cases if it's a misdemeanor?
Oh, absolutely. And you are facing jail time on it, but it's a misdemeanor case. It's one of the few misdemeanors that goes beyond just 1 year of probation. You have a lot of other things that go on past a year or past 2 years, past 3 years. You'll have to do a 1 year domestic violence classes if you're charged and convicted of that crime. You'll lose your firearm, your ability to own a firearm for 10 years. There's a lot of implications far beyond just the charge and what's going to be on your record and how long jail time or probation. That'll last much past that. You can lose custody of your children. You can, beyond the personal ramifications of it.
Most people don't think that. How do you go about defending someone who hires us and you for a domestic violence case?
We go through a lot of processes. The first and foremost, and the most important thing, is to get the information directly from our clients. We send out homework packets from our office where we get all the information about the case and any witnesses. But this is all very, very important, to get as much information about what's going on so that we actually understand what your version of the events are and how to combat what's on a police report. And that's really what you're going against. There's going to be your story, the alleged victim story, and then what's really on the police report. And I found that these two, the alleged victim and the person facing criminal charges, will have a version of events. And for whatever reason, the police report reads how it reads, just to almost, in certain circumstances, to bring the charges. So, the first thing to do is just get all the information you possibly can and start getting mitigation information. If somebody's been doing a lot of good things in the community, getting that information early on, we ask for this in the homework packet as well, will help us to be able to, and this is where it comes into. We're either going to fight the case or negotiate with the court and the DA. And those are your two options. So you're either going to go to trial on this, or you're going to try and get this so we can get it dismissed or get a favorable outcome. So it'll be getting that information early on and then having constant contact with the district attorney's office to negotiate what's going on, to get all the good facts that are out there in there that aren't in the police report, and then just go about it in that way. And I found going about it in this way has allowed me in multiple occasions to have DV charges that have been able to be dismissed, which is, I think, the best. The
best possible. Well, John, thank you very much for coming on the show. As anticipated, we didn't get through a lot of questions. You'll be coming on again. Thank you, and it's a blessing that we have you as one of our lawyers. And anyone who has Mr. Gordon as their lawyer at Wallin Klarich is a very lucky person. So now we're going to go to commercial break, and Eric Lampel will be after the break. Thanks, John.
Thanks, Paul.
You've been charged with a crime, and now you're facing the loss of your freedom. Where do you turn to get out of jail or stay out of jail? The law offices of Wallin Klarich. Call 877-4-NO-JAIL. With over 20 years' experience and attorneys who work in your local courts, Wallin Klarich can make the difference between jail and freedom. When you need help, make one call. Make it to Wallin Klarich. 877-4-NO-JAIL. The call is free. Will you be?
When your children are taken by social workers, it may be the worst day of your life. When will I see my children again? Where are they going? How can I get them back? Who can I turn to for help to end this nightmare? The answers to all these questions are a phone call or email away. Wallin Klarich have been helping defend parents who are battling the system to regain custody of their children for 40 years. Many of their clients have done nothing wrong to warrant their children being taken from them. Other clients may regret some action that they've taken with their children. However, in every case, the clients desperately need their children back. That's where Wallin Klarich comes in. They know the dependency system. They will do all they can to work to try to get your children back with you. Take the first step and call Wallin Klarich now for a free phone consultation at 877-466-5245. That's 877-466-5245. Or visit wklaw.com to chat with us. They'll be there when you call.
Hey, are you okay to drive? Yeah, I'm fine.
17 to Central Jail.
If you've been arrested for DUI and are facing DMV in court hearings, it could mean losing your license, your job, and even your freedom. But Wallin Klarich can help. Just call 877-4-NO-JAIL. With attorneys who know your local courts, Wallin Klarich can make the difference between jail and freedom. Call Wallin Klarich at 877-4-NO-JAIL. The call is free. Will you be?
When you are facing a serious criminal charge, it means you may be looking at many years in prison or doing up to 1 year in county jail. Most people do not know who to turn to in their time of need for expert legal guidance. What you do next can make the difference between ending up in prison for many years or having your charges dismissed and you going free. At this very critical time in your life, you need Wallin Klarich fighting for you. Wallin Klarich has 40 years of criminal defense experience, and they work very hard to do all they can to win their clients' cases. Wallin Klarich has a team of 10 criminal defense lawyers fighting for their clients every day. They help people with cases pending throughout California. They successfully defend cases dealing with murder, sex crimes, all felonies, as well as misdemeanors. Check out wklaw.com for some real client success stories. They offer a free phone consultation to answer your questions. Call them toll-free at 877-4-NO-JAIL. That's 877-4-NO-JAIL. They will be there when you call.
If you are facing criminal charges, your entire future is at stake. You need to act now to protect your job, your family, and your freedom. Call Wallin Klarich at 877-4-NO-JAIL. Wallin Klarich has over 30 years of experience in fighting for our clients' rights. With local offices in Riverside and San Bernardino, we are here to help you now. Call 877-4-NO-JAIL or go to wklaw.com. How much is your freedom worth? Call 877-466-5245. The call is free. Will you be?
Hi, everyone. We're back. And we have the tremendous honor to have Eric Lampel having called in to talk about his career and many cases he's handled. Hi, Eric.
Hi, Paul. How are you?
Fine. Eric and I have known each other for longer than I remember. Eric, how long have you and I known each other? Do you know how long ago that case was?
25 years is my estimation.
Wow. And
is that right?
Why don't you tell us about your background, where you grew up, where you went to law school, and how you got started as a lawyer.
Will do. I was born actually in Las Vegas, of all places to be born, and at some point as a kid, my parents decided we're moving to Spain, and so lived in Spain for a couple years, got the taste for international living, and came back. And in the 6th grade, a lawyer came to our elementary school, and I just thought he was the coolest guy in the neatest suit I'd ever seen. And I came home and told my mom, I'm going to be a lawyer. And from the 6th grade on, it never changed. And she said, you can be anything you want to be, honey.
Wow.
So, as a supportive
that's
mom.
an awesome story. I didn't know
It's a
that.
great story.
And so
Yeah.
then how did that happen? How did that evolve? College? Where did you go to college, law school, etc.?
Well, I went through my rock and roll, had a band stage, but then realized I couldn't do that and be the law school type. So I went to UC Irvine, undergraduate, and then got accepted at Loyola Law School in Los Angeles, and went there and was a Jessup Moot Court international law participant, because that's what I thought I was going to do because of my living in Spain and all of that, but got snapped up by one of the prestigious insurance defense firms, even though I didn't know what insurance defense was in law school. But I liked them, and they liked me, and they made me an offer, and so I practiced insurance defense for a while, doing a lot of defense of personal injury cases, and was very successful, and then was hired away by a business litigation firm and learned how to be a business lawyer, and started the plaintiff's personal injury practice, and was heavy into personal injury for a few years until that fateful day the employment case came in. A friend of mine was fired because she dared ask for the manager's job that she'd been doing for a year after the male manager left, and their response, instead of giving her that title and that pay, was to fire her. And she said, my mom's been there 25 years, and my boyfriend works there. This is a big grocery store. And she goes, if you just write them a letter, they'll give me my job back. And I said, well, sure, I'll do that. So I write them a letter, and they basically didn't respond the way I thought it should be. And so I litigated against probably the largest employment defense firm in the U.S. and international, and they did a real good job beating me up, but they made the mistake of letting me get into trial. And that's where they got beat up in $1.35 million before punitive damages later. And my face on the front of the Daily Journal as an employment law expert, I became an employment law expert. And you asked me at some point, what was it? What was the most satisfying or rewarding? That and the murder case we may get a chance to talk about. To those were two. I mean, to represent injured people and do a good job for them, and the tricks of the insurance industry, that's very rewarding. But to see this little gal from the grocery store that it was denied, and clear and convincing evidence on all 5 counts, was wildly rewarding. And then the case where I defended this innocent young girl who regrettably, there was an accidental shooting and she got charged, and the police were planting evidence, and on and on. So that kind of jump-started my criminal defense career. So anyway,
so when you handled that, first of all, so people understand, why don't you tell people what it is? What does personal injury lawyer mean? What kind of cases does that include for most people that say they're a personal injury lawyer?
Yeah, so the standard case you think about is a rear end. You get rear-ended on the freeway, and many times you're not injured, and thank God. And then you may not need a plaintiff's personal injury lawyer, but many times there's even with less than a total on the car, there's catastrophic injuries. We've delved into many of those interesting things with neurologists now that can explain why you're having these headaches that don't go away, and why other things, and insurance companies always deny those claims are undervalued. So it's a matter of putting those types of claims, whether it's a left-hand turn case or you get, I represent a lady that got hit in a crosswalk and had a limp, and those end up being very large cases because the people are really hurt.
And why don't you also discuss, so many times people will call me and they'll be in a car accident and they say they're injured, but they didn't treat right away, but then their back hurts. Would you advise a person who has been in a car accident and has suffered damage to their car and some physical pain to always get a lawyer? Or what advice would you give in those kind of situations based on your years of experience?
I always say call a lawyer, get some advice. I mean, we offer a free telephone consultation. Talk to a lawyer. Always see your doctor or chiropractor, someone right away to make sure you're okay. The most important thing is that you get as close to normalcy post-collision that you can. The next thing is to make sure the insurance company doesn't fool around with you or undervalue your case or, want to statementize you 4 times and catch you in an alleged lie, which isn't really a lie. It's very analogous to criminal defense work that the cops try to do the same thing to the accused and the like. But it's very important to talk to a lawyer right away, and that doesn't cost you anything. With most of us, we'll give you 15, 30 minutes to see if you've got something, and if you don't have a doctor, we'll find someone we can refer you to.
Can you also explain the whole concept, because many people don't understand it, of a personal injury lawyer and the contingency type retainer versus an hourly rate type retainer?
Sure, and that's the benefit. I mean, horrible to be in an accident and be injured, but if you have a case that we would accept that on a contingency basis, meaning we would work for a percentage of what we get for you. If we don't get you anything, you don't pay anything. And so it's a benefit is that we work harder because our pay is dependent upon what we can do for you, and you're not having to write out monthly checks to the law firm to represent you. So that is a benefit of the personal injury contingency fee.
But how do you determine, because obviously it would seem to me what you do would be a more risky business than, say, what I do, in that we represent people accused of crimes and people pay us money whether we win or lose. In your case, you could put hours and hours and, I'm sure, effort into a case and end up with nothing if you lose. Is that correct?
That's correct, and it's true with employment discrimination cases that we do. Sometimes we take those on with some upfront money, but largely a contingency-based, and sometimes, the case doesn't prevail. There's no guarantee now. The nice thing about personal injury contingency is generally there's an insurance company on the other side. You're not taking money from the negligent driver. You're trying to engineer a settlement or a verdict with the insurance company having to pay that. So there is some idea that in the future you're going to get paid. When I left the business firm that I started, the personal injury division, I took 72 cases with me that were in various stages of being worked on. So, I had a plaintiff's personal injury practice, and this is in 1985, by the way, with that bedrock of cases that I had in the stream, as it were.
So those cases you'd already analyzed, but what if someone calls you tomorrow? Are there certain kinds of cases that you won't take on, whether because you can't get a recovery? For example, if someone comes into you and says they were molested by someone that worked in the Catholic Church, let's talk about that. Is that the kind of case that you would not take on, or you would take on, and why?
Well, it's difficult. There were a couple Supreme Court rulings that just came down that made it much more difficult to pursue a case against the Catholic Church. I had an employment case where a principal was fired when this horrifying regional manager who is a gay-hating person found out that he might have been gay. And we litigated that through, and then the Supreme Court came down and basically pulled the rug out from under our feet, and we had to settle that case, and it settled a lot cheaper than it should have. So sometimes,
What do you mean, though, by that? What did the Supreme Court do? You were taking on a case that you thought that someone that worked for the Catholic Church who happened to be gay, or they thought he was gay, they fired him?
Yes, and it's completely, according to the new conservative Supreme Court, it's completely okay for the Catholic Church to discriminate on the basis of sexual orientation, race, gender, national origin. It boggles my mind, but religious freedom is more important, according to the Supreme Court, than a worker's right to not be discriminated against. So you got a free card if you're a Catholic Church.
I think you're talking about, maybe that's a different case, but one thing I talk on this show about, I've talked about it before, is this very recent case that basically this gay couple had wanted to adopt a child, and they went to the Catholic Service Agency in Philadelphia, and they were denied. And so they went all the way to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court said, basically, sorry, Charlie, they can discriminate. You can get a baby somewhere else. Is that the case you're talking about, or that's yet another bad case?
There's another one probably 6 months or so ago that was equally as horrific, that was the decision I talked about. So to answer your question more directly, no, at this point, we'd be very careful in taking one of those cases, because I don't want to take my client's money, my time, and then end up with a case that we're not able to prove. That's the whole point. So
would it make a difference then if that person came in and said they were molested by a fourth grade school teacher? And would that be a difference because there's not a religious piece to it?
Correct. That's a different animal.
And so you would be more likely to possibly take that on if the facts were such that you believe the person was being credible.
Well, of course, as long as it's provable in some way, and that's the problem with older cases. I've got a few of those going on right now at my office. Is was there email around when the molestation occurred? Were there photographs? There were no cell phones back then, so it just becomes if it's a he said, she said situation, that those are tougher to think you can prove. So it depends on how your client comes off, and what the psychologist says, et cetera, et cetera. So.
Because if the person didn't come forward for many years and is now bringing up the allegation 20, 30 years later, of course, that they're going to say you must be making it up, right? That's what you're saying.
Yeah, but and that of course is not. Yeah, but that's not always true. Some people repress what happened to them, and their life is screwed up because of it. And that's why California changed the statute and allowed older cases to come forward. But yeah, that's the defense many times, and so it's a case by case basis. And when you look at those cases, some of those people have gone through hell, and then some are phony baloney, making it up for a dime.
Yeah, you mentioned that you took on a murder case for a 19-year-old Hispanic person that you believe was innocent, right?
Yeah, she had the crime of being Hispanic in Laguna Niguel.
And was that prior to that case, had you handled any other murder cases?
I hadn't handled a felony case prior to that.
Wow.
I knew the family, and there was a burglar and the poor girl, the family had left, and she was home with her baby, and she, instead of calling 911, she grabbed a gun. The gun accidentally goes off, and the police were at the place in about 30 seconds, surprisingly, and I figured out why. They, of course, tried to hide that from us, but we always thought, why did the police get there so quickly? And then, did everything they could to frame her and lie about what the evidence was. There wasn't any evidence this was anything but a horrifying accident, and we took it through and proved it, got a full acquittal, and then I sued them. So that's how that worked out.
Did you also get a recovery?
I did not win that federal civil rights case. Regrettably, I think the judge, he and I came to fisticuffs almost at the beginning, but he gave me a fair because I was acting like you in that case that you and I tried with each other. I wasn't taking anything from that judge.
Eric and I tried a case where it was the very first case I had represented a molest victim, and he was representing the alleged perpetrator. And the judge hated me, hated my client, did everything possible to have us lose. His client, we had photographs of his client in a latex outfit, believe it or not. Anyway, to make a long story short, it literally, I had emotional damage after that case, and it ended up that judge, when the case was over, we got that judge, well, me and a couple other lawyers who had similar experiences, believed that he was anti-Semitic because he seemed to do this with to Jewish lawyers. He was kicked off the bench, which I was a really good outcome for him. And my client got a judgment. I don't think she ever collected much, but in any event, she was a wonderful person, and it was a great experience for me. Eric, before we finish, I'd like to know, tell us where your office is located, first of all.
So we're in Irvine by the airport on campus in Von Carmen. Our number is 949-261-8877. We got reception for those people that still come to a law office from 8 to 5, doing most of my interviews now on Zoom or telephonically, but we're there all 5 days a week, 8 to 5, and ready to help anyone that's injured or discriminated against or has a criminal problem, because I enjoy vastly defending people.
Can you just do me a favor? Give us your phone number again and your website one more time so people can get it.
So the website's up on your stream. It's www.thelampelfirm.com. In Irvine, the law office telephone number is area code 949-261-8877. Happy to give you a free consultation, talk to you, and see how I can help. And I try to do some pro bono, meaning free work for those people that are discriminated against or need a hand. And I've been practicing for 40 years, so if I give some free time, I think that's my responsibility.
I think it's unbelievable, Eric, that you do that, because there are many lawyers that have practiced for as long as you or shorter than you that do not do that at all, and that's unfortunate. And the fact that you're willing to do that for people that are probably the least, the most poorly treated by people in this country, especially with the last 4 years of that president, I really appreciate that you do that, and I really appreciate you coming on the show. Eric's a fantastic lawyer. You can hear the kind of cases he's willing to take on. He doesn't wait for the cherry case. He takes on people that are in need. Eric, thank you very much for coming on the show. I really appreciate it. And if you didn't get his phone number, you can go to KMET 1490, and you can watch this. You can get his information from watching our show on at KMET 1490. Eric, thank you very much for coming on the show. I really appreciate it.
Paul, my pleasure. Always great to talk to you. Take care.
Okay, thank you. Before we leave today, I just wanted to talk briefly about the indictment of Mr. Weiselberg, the financial advisor to the Trump Organization. He's facing 15 years in prison, and the big question that everyone will be asking, of course, is whether or not he's going to be willing to testify against Donald Trump to avoid spending the rest of his life in prison. The question is, what did Donald Trump know or not know about what was going on with the taxes in his organization? Yesterday, he claimed to be all confused about tax stuff in general, and all of a sudden, videos circulated all over the place online where he's making speeches about he knows taxes better than anyone ever in the United States. So if there is justice, and I believe there is justice, in the next few months, unlike what some Trump supporters would like to believe, that Donald Trump's next residence will be in the White House in August, as they've been saying, I believe it's much more likely that in August or September or maybe later in the year, he'll have another house, and it won't be in the White House. It will be in some jail somewhere. Anyway, I want you guys to know it's an absolute pleasure to be able to run this program the WK Law Power Hour. I hope you get legal education from it every week. I hope you know that's a place you can go, wklaw.com. You can call us with any legal problem, 877-466-5245. It's fantastic to even have the opportunity to have this forum. I love you guys, and we'll see you again next week.
Thank you.